You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franzen here. I'm one of the hosts of 15 Minutes, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, a artificial intelligence machine, and artificial intelligence machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com or schedule a free marketing consultation. Eido Walny is the founder and managing partner of the estate planning firm Walny Legal Group, LLC, where he's a nationally noted speaker, writer, and lawyer. Among the numerous awards he has won are Best Lawyer in America, a Business Journal 40 Under 40, and a Leader in the Law. When he's not lawyering, he sits on numerous boards and is the editor-in-chief of the NAPEC Journal, an editor for Investopedia, and is the president of Bayside, Wisconsin, restores cars, makes cufflinks, and manages his son's hockey career, among other things. Hey, Eido, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Chad. I'm great. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much. Hey, so tell me a little bit about how you got started in the legal industry.
So I've got a number of lawyers in my family. When I was in high school, I had the benefit of spending some summers with some of them as a clerk. More than anything, I learned about areas of the law that I did not want to help with. Obviously, my family had some legal things come up as I was growing up and got to see how various family members were treated, some good, some bad, as those issues arose. I had an opportunity to go to law school and got introduced to estate planning as an area of the law by virtue of the attorney who recruited me. And 21 years later, here I am.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. So how long has Walny Legal Group been in existence?
So I founded the firm in May of 2011. So the firm's been in existence for a little over 11 years. And I founded the firm about 10 years after I started practicing.
Was that kind of your goal the entire time?
You know, ironically, I remember telling friends in law school that after about 10 years, I'd love to start a firm. And while I'd love to say that it was planned, I think it was more happenstantial that I started the firm 10 years within a few days. It was 10 years to the day from the point I graduated law school, but more coincidental than intentional.
So you had kind of planned. I mean, it's hard to plan those things exactly, but you had kind of planned to do it 10 years later. Did you know it was time, or was there like a situation, 10 years later that kind of led you to think, okay, now is time?
Yeah, I mean, so I have a number of entrepreneurs in my family. So I think whether I acknowledge it openly or not, you always have this entrepreneurial spirit behind you. And like a lot of people, I would witness things in the firms that I was at, and some things I liked and some things I didn't like. And I'd switched firms a few times and eventually figured out that there were just systems I thought I could do better. There were methodologies I thought I could do better. And eventually you realize, there are large organizations that you as an individual just are not going to change. And so I figured after about 10 years that I had a good enough client base, good enough knowledge, skills, and certainly the business acumen to go ahead and do this. And so after 10 years, I took the plunge and have never looked back.
What were the early days of Walny Legal Group like?
It was just me working 20 hours a day by myself in an office. I mean, when you take the plunge to start a firm like that, people ask, and my wife certainly asked, what if you fail? And I would tell her, like I would tell others, failure was simply not an option. And when you have that mentality and you believe in yourself, and I had prepared, right? I mean, I had clients right out of the gate, and to their credit, the firm I was with at the time was very supportive of me making the move. And so failure wasn't an option. So I just worked really hard. I spent almost every waking moment in the office to make sure that things were going to start off well. And after a while, I got to the point where I could start to hire people. We happened to be in a good environment at the time. It was 2011, so rents were low. There were some changes in the tax code that were beneficial to generating business. And so the timing happened to be good as well. And, failure was not an option, and we didn't fail.
What had been your job prior to starting your own firm?
I was at I was the head of an estate planning group at a large law firm.
How was starting your own firm different? That's a big job, but how was starting your own different than that? Was there anything that you kind of didn't know that you didn't know?
So I got set up really nicely, actually. And again, credit to the firm, because it was a large firm with something like 13 or 16 offices across the country, but they had no estate planning group. And so when I was initially recruited to that firm, the sell to me was, even though it's a big firm, come on in, you can kind of run the show how you want. And so I was effectively running a small firm within that firm. Now, the minus was that I had to clear things with people. Sometimes I was told no. There were obstacles put up in front of me. But on the plus side, I did get a very good taste of business development, accountability, getting to develop your own clients and your own contacts. And so while I wasn't at full stride at the point that I left, I was in a pretty good gallop. And so I really felt like, while it wasn't running my own firm, and I certainly wasn't paying every bill and things like that, I did have a really good insight to what it was going to be like. And so I think for me in particular, that transition was smoother than it would be for most people doing what I did.
What would you say the biggest turning points have been for your firm?
It's obviously eye-opening when you hire other people. When it's just you, your thought is, well, if I fail, I'll take myself and my family down and we'll have to regroup, and that would be terrible. But when you start to have people who you hire and you start to realize that it's not just you now, it's you and that person and their family, and they're really relying on you to feed them and pay for their kids' education and things like that. That's a sobering experience. And then on top of that, the legalities of hiring people and the insurance you have to carry and the responsibilities you have, and the payroll structure. When it's just you get paid when there's money, but employees for some odd reason want to be paid fairly regularly. And so, there's an accountability there that makes you be more accountable to other people. And so that was a pretty big turning point.
How do you kind of set that? That's some pretty big responsibility when you think of it. How do you kind of acknowledge it and realize the gravity of it, but yet set it aside and still kind of, plow forward?
For me, whether right or wrong, and I know there's different opinions on this, I always put my employees first. And so early on, if there were cash shortages or the employee needed something or we needed business equipment or whatever, I always took the philosophy that I needed to take care of that person first. And so there were times early on where I would skip a paycheck or skip a couple or several paychecks in a row, because I knew I would be okay. And I needed to make sure that we had the computers and the systems and the payroll and the taxes that all needed to be taken care of. Again, coming from a business background, I knew that, that was just something you had to do as a business owner. Sometimes you just had to suck it up and do what was best for the business, even though in the short term, it wasn't best for you. It would be best for you in the long term. And so that's just what I did.
Are there some big milestones, over the past 11 years that you're particularly proud of?
Absolutely. I mean, we are now in our third office. I would say this is our long-term office. We started out in kind of a room. And from the room went to a small, reasonably priced office, but now we're on the 17th floor of a business building in the middle of downtown Milwaukee, where rent is, 1 month of rent is more than I paid for a year's rent at my original office. So that's a milestone. I think, bringing on partners, some of the original hire lawyers that I brought on are now my partners. And so that's a pretty interesting milestone, because you go from the point of being the person in charge to now running things through other people and profit sharing and things like that. But I think I've seen with other small law firms where the founding partner is the only partner, they're the sun in that solar system. And it makes it, while financially that may be great, I think it causes other political issues and succession issues. And I had a lot of clients say, well, if you get hit by a bus, what happens the next day? And I always didn't like that question. And now I've got a really good answer to that question. You're going to be fine. I've got really great partners. We have really great staff. We have other attorneys. If I got hit by a bus today, you would be just fine.
Has there been along the way, kind of a big pitfall or a mistake that you ended up learning a lot from?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. The person who is the business owner who never makes a mistake is the biggest liar on earth, right? You always make mistakes, but I think we have a healthy attitude about mistakes. Mistakes are learning opportunities. Mistakes can sometimes be costly, but we look at that as the tuition at the school of hard knocks. Those lessons are not free. You cannot learn from other people's mistakes. The old adage is just false. You can learn some lessons from other people's mistakes, but you still have to make mistakes and learn from them. And so, we've made hiring mistakes, we've made purchase mistakes, we've made system mistakes. We've had to spend some money to undo those mistakes, but again, it's the cost of doing business and the tuition at the school of hard knocks.
Is there one that stands out where you're like, that stands out to me every time you're in that situation? I realize that I made this mistake, years ago, and I'll never do it again.
No, because I think if you take that kind of attitude, then you have an opportunity to miss some opportunities. So this is a pitfall that I think even here we discuss sometimes. This thing happened to us, so we never want that to happen again. Well, my answer to that is always, well, what put us in the position to have done that and made those decisions in the first place? And maybe it was a personality issue, or maybe it was a vendor issue. But we shouldn't dismiss every candidate or every vendor because that situation didn't turn out how we wanted. And so, you live and learn. You learn to ask better questions or more pointed questions, or maybe you do better due diligence. But I think it's really those lessons that you learn to try to get it better the next time is what we've learned from that. So there's probably no surprise, especially in 2022. Hiring is really hard. It's hard to make good hiring decisions. People lie on their resumes. They embellish. They put their best face forward, their best foot forward. You've got to make the best decisions that you can for your business. And sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Nobody is pitching 1,000% when it comes to hiring decisions. And so we're always looking for the next good person. I'm really proud of the staff and the people that we've got, but undoubtedly we've made some costly mistakes along the way, but we live and learn from those.
Sure. Hey, is there a big challenge maybe that you've had to overcome either personally or professionally?
Yes. I mean, there's always stuff, right? I mean, I professionally, I think we're always fighting the stigma of being a relatively small firm. I see our best competitors as being big firms, ones with massive resources. They can steal staff from us because we simply can't compete in terms of paycheck. We can certainly compete in terms of lifestyle, but some people buy that and some people don't. But we've had really good people, and big firms come and swoop our talented people away for sometimes more than twice what we can pay them. And we can't compete with that. So I would say that's a challenge. Professionally, as you mentioned in the introduction, I've got a lot going on. Part of that is because I legitimately cannot sleep. I sleep about 2 to 3 hours a night. And so what I've done, rather than just waste that time, is find ways to make that time productive. Some of it is professionally productive. Some of it is personally productive. Some of it is just there to disengage my brain from the turmoils of the various days. I am not particularly mechanically inclined, but I've learned how to restore cars because I have to focus on that. And that focus means that I'm not thinking about my clients' issues or revenue or taxes. And that helps me sleep the couple or 3 hours a night that I need.
Do you get tired?
Never. I don't get tired. So I can go 2 or 3 days without sleep at all. It's just weird. But then I hit a brick wall. So I do need to sleep some, but I am perfectly refreshed after 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird.
What is your proudest moment so far? A moment that you look back on that you're particularly proud of, maybe a career highlight, something like that.
There's lots of awards that we've won that I'm really proud of. I mean, being named to the Best Lawyers of America list is a goal that I'd had for myself professionally. And so having done that, I think 2021 was the first year that I got that. I was really proud of that. Being named to the Business Journal, Milwaukee Business Journal 40 Under 40 was a proud moment for me. I mean, obviously there's a very limited, timeline where you can get that. Once you're over 40, that goal is never going to be realized. And so I think I got that at 38. So I was really proud of that. But honestly, my proudest moments come from the successes of my partners and employees. I hired my two partners as very, very young attorneys. One was fresh out of law school. And so to see them now be recognized as experts in their field, for them to win awards on the level that I expect of myself, is really makes me proud. I mean, almost like a dad. I'm certainly not their dad. They are adults and professionals, and they deserve the honors and accolades that they win, and they've worked hard to get those. But I have always run my shop very transparently and helped them and showed them the things that I did to be successful. So to see them embrace that and be recognized for their efforts makes me super proud, really proud.
You said you grew up kind of in a family with attorneys, or like kind of a legal bent. When did you know that this was going to be for you?
Probably sometime in college. I had a number of friends who were all either going to law school or med school, and I definitely was not going to med school. And so I thought that this would be a really good area for me. Initially, I thought I would do corporate law, but then as I started practicing, I had a much better acumen for estate planning. I had some visions about where the industry was going in a way that I didn't for corporate law. And a lot of the things that I thought would happen ended up happening, which really put me in a great position to succeed. And so I would say that, early, probably midway through college is when I thought that this was a good move for me. And then early on in my legal career is when I found estate planning. And it's just been a great marriage for me ever since.
I'm sure you have a few of them, maybe who's a mentor of yours or a couple of mentors of yours? And is there any advice that you've received that really stands out as really great for you?
Without a doubt, my dad is my mentor when it comes to business issues. My dad is, and it sounds cheesy, but my dad is someone who never graduated from college. He has a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks, as I like to say. I mean, he's got great business acumen. And so sometimes there are issues that come up in business that are counterintuitive. You really have to understand psychology and business and economics. And those are hard lessons to learn. And I think a lot of lawyers are good at telling other people how to run their business, but terrible about running their own business. And so I always try to stay tried and true to my dad's PhD from the School of Hard Knocks, the lessons he taught me about how business works and how people operate, because it's different than you learn in law school or law books. If it were mechanical, then lawyers wouldn't be necessary. There would be computer programs for everything that we do, but there's a reason that isn't the case. And so understanding that, I think, separates me in the marketplace. And I think those lessons have been absolutely invaluable to me. Of course, there are other professionals that are my age. A good friend of mine who started a boutique litigation firm right around the time that I started my boutique estate planning firm. He and I riff with each other about business issues all the time because we face a lot of the same issues. You always rely on other peers and professionals to help you through various challenges and issues so that you try to avoid issues because they're costly.
Are there some daily rituals that you find most important? What's in kind of a typical day for you?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of my peers make is that they only market when things are slow. So they look at marketing as a way to get busy. And so when they are busy, they focus on the work and pull back on the marketing. So I would say that one of the daily rituals that I do religiously is do a little bit of marketing, even if it's just sending a few emails or responding to some media requests, anything for about a half hour, 45 minutes. It takes you some time to get your brain acumented to the day. You're drinking your coffee. Whereas most people are reading the news or whatnot, I am engaging in some level of marketing. And I do that regardless of if I'm busy or not busy. And I think, thankfully, there are very few days where I'm not busy now, but it is because I avoid the cyclical nature of you're busy so you don't market, so that you're not busy so you start to market so you're busy again. I don't like that cyclical nature. I want things to always be busy. And the way that I do that is by doing some marketing every single day, 7 days a week.
Was marketing was the necessity to have to do marketing something that you were well aware of when you started your own firm, or did you kind of have to grow into it?
Yeah, I mean, again, the lessons from my dad and his PhD from the School of Hard Knocks was that marketing is a necessity. Marketing is not something that you do when you've got time or you've got a little bit of extra money in the budget. Marketing has to be a priority. It is the lifeblood of your business. And so I've always done it. It's something that I'm pretty skilled at. Obviously, when you've got more money, you can do more things. But when you have less money, it doesn't mean you can't do anything. In fact, that's when I find that the best creative solutions come up, and certainly some of the best ideas I've had. And now I can be paid to do some of my marketing. I look at marketing as including little things like going to lunch with people or just saying hi over email with referral sources you haven't heard from for a while. But doing articles and being a speaker and being paid to be a speaker, that's marketing. And so to be paid to do some of that now is fantastic.
I have one more question for you, but first, how can people find out more about Walny Legal Group?
Sure. Our website is www.walnylegal.com. I would say go there. All of our contact information, phone numbers, contacts for all of our attorneys is all on there. When your name is Eido, spelled E-I-D-O, Google is your friend, because all you have to do is Google Eido, and the first few pages will be various talks and articles that I've written. But the website is a great place to start.
Okay, great. Final question. How's your son's hockey career going?
He's doing great. He's playing in South Carolina these days. He's a U16. He's hoping to play Division I hockey and get picked up by a junior team. He's a goalie. But his season is really off to a fantastic start. It's a double-edged sword when your kid is talented in sports, because he has not lived at home since he was 13, and I miss the heck out of him. I miss spending time with him, but to see how well he's doing and how seriously he takes school when I can't hover over him and tell him to do his homework, to see him rise to those occasions is really fantastic. He's a great kid, a talented goalie, and I have really high hopes for him, not only having a successful hockey career, but a successful life. He's just a great person.
Did you have a background in hockey?
None. In fact, never saw a hockey game. I went to my very first, so my son is 16, almost 17 now. 2 weekends ago, I went to my very first hockey game where he either wasn't with me or wasn't playing. So I didn't know diddly squat about hockey. I always tell people, notwithstanding where my son is now, the first time we put goalie pads on him, honest to goodness, I had to go on YouTube to figure out how to put the equipment on him, because I had no idea. I didn't know anything about hockey when he started.
That's great. Well, hey, we wish him the best of luck, and
thank you.
Really, really appreciate your time and your thoughts and the time you took to join us today. Thanks so much, Eido.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Chad.
So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.